This session is being recorded. Thank you to everyone who's joining us today to hear from ApprovalMax. We're very excited to have Sahil and Alex today present to us. So ApprovalMax, let me just give you a brief overview of what it is, and then I'll hand over to Sahil to do the presentation. ApprovalMax extends online accounting platforms with approval-driven financial controls for accounts payable and accounts receivable. It replaces paper and email-based approval routing with fully automated, multi-role and multi-tiered approval workflows, and ensures spend control and regulatory compliance for both internal accounting and financial service outsourcing organisation. It advocates for shared accountability between clients and their accounting and bookkeeping partners. And I know it's a solution that many people use, and is a very important solution for many companies. So if I can hand over to you, Sahil, to take it over.
Thank you, Heather. That's a great introduction. You've pretty much covered the whole session in those few words. Thank you.
There you go. We'll just go to Q&A.
There you go. Perfect. Look, hey, firstly, thank you for organizing these events. I know we all get a lot of value from events, and also thank you to everyone who has tuned in to listen today. My plan for today is to start by giving you an overview of ApprovalMax, what we do, what are some of the problems that we solve. I'll touch on best use cases or where or what types of clients use ApprovalMax, and then I'll jump into a high-level overview demo of the product as well. But please, what I'd love is if you can drop as many questions as you'd like to answer. We've got our sales engineer, Alex, as well. Thank you, Alex, for joining, and we'll get to those questions at the end of the session. So what I might start is a screen share. Okay. And I'm assuming everyone can see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Perfect, thank you. So let me start by introducing ApprovalMax. So it was created to provide an easy solution for standard or generic workflows for businesses that did not need or could not afford a complicated business management process. And we started off with a standalone solution for workflows. We got our first customer on board, and he said, all of this looks good, but do you integrate with Xero? Xero is the accounting software we use. Do you have an integration? And that was in 2016 when we moved our focus on the needs of Xero partners, the ecosystem, and the customers. And since then, we've developed the app to a level that allowed us to enter the preferred level in the Xero ecosystem. And that's based on how many connections are linked with Xero, year-on-year growth, very similar to how an accounting or a bookkeeping practice would become a platinum partner with Xero. So we are very proud about all the reviews that our customers and our clients have given us, 150 plus 5-star ratings from happy customers. It's a really nice achievement. And our alliance with Xero in serving the needs of the app ecosystem also allowed us to enter into the playbooks for cash flow management, for hospitality, and also win multiple awards in the last couple of years, back to back in the UK and New Zealand early this year as well. So in terms of what sort of problems we solve, the main point is that we try to bridge the gap between invoices that you receive from suppliers and before entering them in the ledger. Traditionally, in a few of the businesses, an administrator or an office manager will usually receive an invoice from a supplier and will be running around the office finding a manager or someone with authority to stamp that invoice with one of those stamps which has got approved embedded on those stamps. I'm not sure if anyone remembers those. And after that, it gets entered into the accounting ledger, ready to be paid. Now, obviously, that is a paper-based process. You have to print out that supplier bill, get it stamped. So it causes a lot of friction. It creates paper clutter. The best you can do is probably turn it into an email-based process, but then again, then you're waiting for the approver to send an email back to you saying approved. So it creates a whole lot of email clutter. Further to that, it leads to missed payments, and it affects some of the supplier relationships because you might end up missing some of those payments. You may lose the bill and keep asking the supplier for the same bill over and over again. So it leads to a lot of duplication. And worst case scenario is that it leads to unauthorized invoice payments. So they haven't been authorized and they get paid either as a fraudulent transaction. So if someone just changes the bank account and gets it approved, there we go. It gets paid to the wrong bank account. And the fourth one, I think, is probably very, I'm assuming there's most people in this room are accounting firms or bookkeepers or financial advisors, incomplete or incorrect coding. So business owners love to code everything to general expenses. And that is another sort of problem we see, for which ApprovalMax is a good solution. And the final one is audit reporting. So the time it takes to create an audit when you've got so much paper and email clutter is obviously a lot, and inefficient audits as well. So those audits end up turning very expensive. So overall, when we're looking at financial controls, internal controls, compliance related problems, that's where we fit in, and we provide a solution which eradicates the need for such paper and email. So we effectively digitize the process of delegated authorities in cases where an invoice needs to be approved by multiple approvers before it hits the accounting ledger. Further to that, ApprovalMax leads to better spend control management by enabling businesses to firstly get purchase orders approved as well. So in a lot of the cases, it's not just about the bill being received from the supplier, but actually more of a proactive spend control management where the purchase order first needs to be approved before the decision to buy. And then when a bill is received, there's the ability to match those purchase orders with bills. Non-accounting staff can be removed from the accounting ledger altogether, as they now have the ability to create invoices in ApprovalMax directly, which then pushes into the accounting ledger upon final approval. And the digital process offers the ability to approve or reject invoices on the go, or if the approvers are out and about, it becomes a very simple and quick process. And finally, an audit report that gets generated and attached to each transaction. It helps with quicker, cleaner, and efficient audits. And auditors usually tell us that any business that they go in, and if there's ApprovalMax set up there, they simply just have to check the workflows. They don't even have to go into too many transactions. So it becomes quite an inexpensive process to do an audit. I won't talk too much about this, but because I want to show the product as well. But in terms of the main capabilities of the software, we have approval workflow processes for accounts payable and also for accounts receivable. Although most businesses that we work with, they start with us on the accounts payable bill automation process, and then gradually, if they want to tighten their process further, then they also introduce the purchase order process. Now, if you do have purchase orders and bill approval workflows in the system set up, then you also have the ability to match those together, and then the reporting off the back of it allows you to see where the discrepancies or the bottlenecks are. This is a very common question we get asked: which industries do you fit best in? What are the types of clients you fit best in? So what I like to say is that ApprovalMax is not a fit by industry, but mostly by business need or business factors. So there are a few specific industries that I've highlighted here that are a really good fit for ApprovalMax, but it's mostly based on the need or if there's a specific problem in the business. Now, the need could be based on a communication break. So you may have a need for communication with staff who are overseas with different subsidiaries to approve invoices, or where you have a centralized headquarter or an administrative department and you're delegating the financial controls. So the need for multi-tiered approvals and standardized processes is required in such businesses. Last year, a lot of people were forced to work from home. So that effectively became a remote location scenario for a lot of the businesses where the approver may not necessarily have been in the office, and that became a really big push for them to digitize their internal processes. The second one is compliance-driven organizations like not-for-profits, schools, charities, churches, anyone that has got strict compliance and audit and statutory requirements. They may get public funding from the government, and they get audited very regularly. So they have to present that the funds that they get are being utilized in the most effective way. And on the same point, we've got investor-driven startups as well that get external funding from investors, and they want to be able to see the funds are not being wasted, but they are being utilized effectively. And the final one I've got there is high purchase volume. And again, that can be any industry where you've got a lot of suppliers, like construction or hospitality, event management, where the number of suppliers, number of transactions is huge. And you've got the approvers that need to approve such invoices are out and about. They may not necessarily be available to quickly process that invoice. So that's another one for us. This information has been shared by some of our partners and clients that some of the quantitative indicators where ApprovalMax fits in best is if you are spending any more than 30 minutes per week, ApprovalMax provides better and quicker results. So that's where integrating with ApprovalMax will effectively save you a lot of time. The sizable number of approvers, anything over 3. Now that is debatable though, because just early this week, I had a conversation with a bookkeeper who provides accounts payable outsourcing service to business owners in Australia. Now, in that case, what she does is she creates invoices, but wants the business owner to approve before payments. There's only one approver required there, but since that's a special service she provides to businesses, in that case, ApprovalMax is a big sort of game changer for such businesses as well. And the final one I've got there is anything around about 30 invoices or documents per month that need to be processed and approved. That's where we fit in well. That's wrong direction. This highlights where we fit in the process of an app stack. So Xero or your QuickBooks Online Ledger is the system of record. And at the top, we've got some data digitization tools like Receipt Bank, or now called Dex. I promised I would get it right this time, but I couldn't. HubDoc, Data Molino, Auto Entry. So these are some of the systems of systems that extract the information from an invoice. Then depending on the needs of the business, we sit in the middle, offering 2 specific functions, which we like to define as spend control, either proactive or reactive. So reactive would effectively be a spend management system where a bill needs to be paid and it has been received by a supplier. However, when a bill is received, the chances are the goods or services have already been received. So if you want to add an additional layer of financial controls, then businesses would introduce a purchase order function as well. But irrespective of that, the workflows that we offer around bills and purchase orders are independent. They can be used together or separately as well. This is just another visual way of representing what that bill automation looks like. So I'm just going to put my cursor here. This shows some of the data capture tools. We've got Auto Entry, Data Molino, Dex, or you can simply create an invoice in Xero as well. It goes into Xero for approval, so it will sit under awaiting approval, and that's where ApprovalMax goes in, extracts that out, and takes it through the approval process based on the workflows that are set up in the system, and sends it back to the awaiting payment stage in Xero. So that would be a reactive spend control where the bill is received without a purchase order. If we add the proactive layer, that's when the purchase orders get involved as well. So same kind of process, an independent workflow, but the purchase order get created first. It goes through a multi-step, multi-level approval process, goes into Xero as an approved purchase order. The bill gets received, it gets matched in ApprovalMax, and it gets sent back into awaiting payment, ready to be paid. So on that point, I'll take a short break just to see if are there any immediate questions that need to be answered. Otherwise, I'll move on to the demo. No? Okay, well, if there's nothing at the moment, then.
It was actually a question. If I just read it out of the chat area, that might be easy for you to respond to quickly. What is the synchronization timeframe between Xero and ApprovalMax? I know that Alex has responded to that, but I just thought I'd throw it out there so we have it for the recording. Yeah,
so it's in between 40 minutes and 1 hour, I believe. But yeah, in most cases, it's so 1 hour is the max, and so that's between ApprovalMax and Xero.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry, hold
so
on.
She's actually.
Sorry, I got so that's between ApprovalMax and Xero from the awaiting approval stage. But once it gets approved in ApprovalMax, it goes into Xero directly.
Yes. Yeah. I think we've got a few questions here, so let's leave them maybe to the end so you keep your flow going, and then we can come back in and jump and answer them. Okay. Thank you.
Sounds good. All good. Okay, so this is a typical screen you would see when you log into ApprovalMax. So decision required. Now, on the left-hand side, you'll see that I've actually got two separate organizations connected. One of them is ApprovalMax Test Org. The other one is ApprovalMax Training. So if I may be invited to multiple ApprovalMax organizations, and this is the screen I see, where I have to make a decision whether to approve or reject a bill. But before this, let's quickly jump into the partner portal, because I do realize there's a lot of accounting and bookkeeping firms here, and we do offer a partner program, as part of which there's a partner portal, which allows you to see things like a product sales presentation. But one of the big ones is this customer onboarding questionnaire. So when you are bringing on a new client, you want to be able to get the right questions answered, and that effectively gives you all the right questions to ask the client when you're doing the onboarding process. And apart from that, there's training, marketing materials, other resources that can be accessed from here as well. In terms of the actual ApprovalMax instance of the product, it's very simple to connect it to first a zero ledger. So if you just go here, well, we'll start off with we'll click on the burger icon, we click on this drop down, and you can add an organization. And I'm sure everyone uses a few apps in the ecosystem, so it's quite simple to just select either Xero or QuickBooks Online, whichever ledger your business uses, and then hit connect. It will take you to the single sign-on, sorry, not the single sign-on, but the connection stage. Select the organization, and then it pulls all the information from Xero. Now, that's an important step because it pulls things like account codes, inventory item codes, tax rates, and tracking categories as well. And that's the information we're going to use to create the workflows. The other one is user. So we do have a few user roles: administrator, user, and auditor. So administrator has all access. User is effectively someone who is going to need to create, to approve or reject invoices. And the final one is an auditor user role, which effectively is a read-only role. So like auditors cannot change anything, but they can see what the workflows look like. And now let's move into the real part of the product here. So as I mentioned before, that we do have approval workflows for a few different sort of sides of Xero. So that's accounts payable and accounts receivable. For the purpose of today, I'm not going to touch on accounts receivable, but it's not as popular as accounts payable because you don't want to cause friction when you're asking for payments from customers anyway. So we'll stick with accounts payable for now. And all of these workflows are independent of each other. However, they're pretty similar in what they do. An approval workflow can be as simple as you like it to be, with just one-step process. If we go back to that example of that bookkeeping practice that is offering accounts payable outsourcing to the business, they just need one step. So they would either create a bill or a purchase order here in the first step, either in ApprovalMax or in Xero. It will go through to the approval step. So one person will need to approve it, and then it goes back into Xero, either as an approved purchase order or as an approved bill ready to be paid. However, there are some businesses where the approval requirements are very complicated. So this is actually an example of a real life business that we work with. Obviously, I've changed the names, but this is a complicated workflow where it needs department manager's approval, GM, financial controller, and so on and so forth. You can add or remove as many steps as you like. So it's very simple to add another approval step, drag it across if you like, and when you update the workflow, it updates for the future payments or the future invoices. What we'll work through today is a bill creation workflow. So in this case, we've got a couple of options. Again, the bill can be created either in Xero and it gets pulled from Xero. And that's the process which takes about 40 minutes to sync, or you can simply create a bill in ApprovalMax. You also have the option to manually sync it, so it then pulls the invoice straight away. And then we've got 3 approval steps here. So we've got a head of department that needs to approve the bill, HR operations, and a C-level, after which it goes back into Xero ready to be paid. So that's a typical workflow of most businesses we work with. in this case, I've got myself as an approver under head of department stage, and I can approve anything or everything. And if you go into the approval matrix, so this is where you can set up what your approval workflow would look like. Again, without going into too much detail, you've got a few options here. You can select the amount, or if you say, okay, well, Alex can only approve anything that is within the dollar value of $1,000 to $2,000, and only if it matches the sales department. You can also select it by, so you can select the account codes. And as I was saying, these get pulled from 0. So you can simply say, okay, well, if this expense is from advertising, and for lack of a better one here, let's say direct expenses, this can be approved by Alex. So we've got tax rates, account codes, item codes, tracking categories, and amount here. So those are the things that you can use for the workflow setup. So we'll keep this simple. We won't make too many changes, but after you've done it, you simply just hit done. I'm not going to do that at the moment, and then update the workflow. And let's go back to an example of what that would look like. So if you go on to the one approval, so I've actually, just conscious of time, I have already created one here. So what I did was, with Dext, we've got a direct integration as well. So it actually doesn't go into awaiting approval anyway. So ApprovalMax can pull the data from Dext directly. So if we look at this particular invoice, which I have created in Dext, we've selected all the relevant details here. It needs to be coded to Ask My Accountant category account. That's the dollar amount. And when we hit publish, it should go into the demo gods are not with me today, I think. Alex, you might be able to help me here. Am I doing?
Is it because it's a QBO one?
Oh, it should be linked with 0.
Okay.
It might be a QBO actually.
Is it?
We go to connections.
Okay.
Yes.
That's fine. That's fine. So that's part of the reason why I actually had the examples here. So these are the ones that I had published yesterday, and that's the integration with Dex. Alternatively, we also can pull all the bills from awaiting approval. So we've got a couple of bills here in awaiting approval, both of them from Apple, where we ordered some products, and they have been pulled in here. So now what we need to do is simply go through the approval process. So we've got a few steps here. That in the first step, that's my responsibility to approve this. After which it will go to HR and operations, and then C-level. Once I hit approve, it goes away from this list. Usually for a user, if they are on the decision required screen, that would go away from their screen, and then it goes to the next person. But in this case, what I need to do is just force a decision, because I'm not going to wait for HR and operations and C-level to approve it. And I am the administrator, so I can just force approve it. Once this is done, again, I think because this is, should hit 0. There we go. So Apple's invoice was approved. We open it. Takes about 20 seconds to get all the information across. But what we'll have is an audit report along with this as well. So this audit report is quite a powerful one. It brings up details about who is the approver, when they approved this bill, what time, and all that information about the account that has been selected. So that's a very simple sort of workflow process. Now, obviously, there are opportunities to reject a bill, add a comment if required, and it goes back into draft and approval in Xero to make such changes. In Xero, we know there's the big green button that says approve. So it's very simple to actually skip the stage in Xero, and instead of putting it under waiting approval, you can simply approve the invoice. So if that happens and you have ApprovalMax connected, there's the additional fraud control layer as well, which then detects that, hey, actually, this should have gone through ApprovalMax, but it has skipped a stage. So that comes in handy to pick up any of those invoices that may have skipped the approval stage. Okay, that's pretty much a very quick overview of how ApprovalMax works. And I think we can open it up to any questions that may have come up.
Hey, thank you so much for that, Sahil. That was really interesting. Now, a few questions did come up in the chat area. Wendy, would you like to jump on and ask your questions? Oh, there she is already. Brilliant.
I just saw, so my third question I had up there earlier was about getting that approval certificate automatically, the audit approval report. How did you get that? Did you email that through to Xero and that was attached? How did that happen?
Actually,
okay.
Actually, the whole process happens automatically. So once you're approving certain requests, doesn't matter if it's purchase order or the bill, it is being generated automatically and it's been attached automatically to your Xero request. So it's just once you're approving something, original invoice and the audit report is attached automatically and being generated on ApprovalMax site and sent into Xero.
Okay, so when we copy the purchase order to a bill in ApprovalMax, that approval audit report automatically attaches, does it?
That's correct, yeah.
Awesome, yeah. Okay. And my other question was just about if you raised a purchase order in ApprovalMax and attached a quote, is there any way that that could come across as well?
Yes, of course. So basically, whatever you've attached into your purchase order, if you're copying this PO into the bill, it will automatically attach everything that you had into your PO.
Awesome. Okay. Maybe they weren't attaching the quotes, and that's why we were always chasing them. And so that's that third question. And my second question was just about in Xero, when you create a bill, it's very easy to click that little green approve button because that's what we always do in other organisations. Instead of clicking the little drop down to go save and send for approval, is there any way we can get a warning or something?
I think we'll need to ask our friends from Xero if that is actually a possible thing to do, because, well, you see, it is not possible from our end because it's specifically Xero type of user interface. So if they will do that, we'll be more than happy to provide that as well.
Yeah.
However, on the other hand, if we're talking about some kind of a integration with OCR tools like Data Molina, Auto Entry, HubDoc, or whatever, from these systems, you can just simply send an invoice not into a draft section, but rather into a wait and approval state straight away. So then you will actually won't need to log into Xero and send that into a wait and approval state in the first place, because it will be automatically synchronized between Xero and ApprovalMax.
Yeah, most of the work that they did was copying Xero purchase orders to bills. So, and just one more from where you've answered me in the about the time frame for the synchronization. You've said that it's possible to manually sync. Where do you manually sync?
Sahil, if you could please.
Yeah, I can do that. I can show that here. So at the top right corner, you'll see the sync button. And usually it's an hour, but if you go to that particular organization, then you can just hit the refresh button here, which manually syncs the data.
Awesome.
The whole thing why we've created this manual synchronization is because there is a API limitation on 3,000 API calls per day. And if you're processing like thousands and thousands requests per day, that might be a bit of an issue. That is why we've limited that to 1 hour synchronization time. But if you wish to sync it straight away, you can always do that manually. So
awesome, thank you. It's a great program for high volume purchase orders and bills. It's been really useful from my experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. That's great. Great question. Just to add to your second question as well on the big approve button in Xero. So in ApprovalMax, you can actually turn on fraud control. I'm not sure if you've looked at that. We just go into the workflows and we click on the settings cog. there's a fraud detection control here. So what that does is it will detect if you have approved an invoice directly in Xero, it will still come up in ApprovalMax and say, oh, hold on, this is skipped a stage. So if you want to, yeah, that just detects any of that problem. So I'll just actually try and replicate that here.
Once you've approved something in Xero, can you unapprove it, Wendy?
No, you can't.
No.
But it
No.
does. It does send that where you just were, there was a little checkbox about sending an email notifying that something was approved outside of ApprovalMax, and we had that turned on. So we would get an email to say that it was done. It was just our operating partner couldn't then go and approve it. You would have to void the bill and create it again. That was the, yeah.
Yeah, that's a shame, isn't it? Yeah, it's frustrating. Okay, I guess another request for the Xero team developers. But thank you very much, Wendy, for your question. Is that everything for you, Wendy? Jose, you've asked the question. Do you want to jump on and ask the question, or do you want me to ask it on your behalf, Jose?
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me? Yes. I would like to hear more about the PO versus invoice matching, how it works, and the benefit of doing it to ApprovalMax.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for this question. So Hill, do you want to show that? Or maybe I can just explain on words how the bill to PO matching works in ApprovalMax. So basically, bill to PO matching works not only in the way that you can match one bill to one purchase order, but rather you can match many bills to one PO, or vice versa, one bill to many purchase orders, which is quite good when you're raising a PO, for example, in the beginning of the year. If you're in construction or something like that, you're making one big PO, and then once a month you receive a new bill. So then you can easily match this such bills to this PO, to this original PO, and see if you're exceeded or not exceeded the budget, and then actually to see what is your PO balance on each and every PO. And then once the PO has been fully fulfilled with all of those bills, you can then mark it as billed, so it will be closed. So I think we do have an example. If you, Sahil, if you could please click on the bill number 1, I think it's the 6 from the top. No, on the same screen that we've been to.
Yeah, okay.
Under approved.
This one? This one. Oh. Yeah, got it. So this is based on the supplier name. Is this what you're talking about?
Well, let's take a look. I'm pretty sure we don't have a purchase order for Intel.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, there is no good example to show you at the moment, I'm afraid. However, the bill to PO matching works in a way that...
There it is. So I think we do have one here. So we've got a purchase order from Apple. We've got a bill from Apple as well. So this allows us to match it to the purchase order.
Okay.
And that's based on the name of the supplier.
Good.
And when you do that, so that there's also reporting off the back of it, which allows you to see. So in most cases, what happens is the purchase order, let's say, will be for $1,000, but when you get the actual bill, it might have a freight charge of $100. So the bill doesn't necessarily match the purchase order. There will be a discrepancy. The ApprovalMax will still allow you to match it to the purchase order, but in the reporting section, it will highlight the differences. Alternatively, you can go into Xero and change the actual cost of the purchase order as well before you match it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Excellent.
And moreover, once we'll approve this bill, fully approved, and when it goes into Xero, what we'll find under the audit report, not only by whom it was approved by, but also to which purchase order it's been matched to, and what is the PO balance for this particular bill. So you'll find all of this information in your audit report as well. So if someone changed something afterwards, you'll also see what's actually happened to this the bill and to the other PO.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Jose, hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, it was. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Jose, today. I have been asked another question. I've been asked to read it out on their behalf. So let me read it out. It's a little bit long. When bills are sitting up, she unfortunately she was forced outside, so she didn't see the whole of the video. So we might have covered a little bit of this. But when bills are sitting in draft in Xero, they may have come in from another app like Vend. Is it possible to match these with supplier bills that have been emailed to our inbox? Will ApprovalMax update the Xero draft bills with the supplier invoice number, date, etc., and approve the bill in Xero?
Well, just to put it clear, ApprovalMax can only work from the awaiting approval state. So it's no problem to work with any other apps on the marketplace. So if something is connected and integrated with Xero, and if it could be sent from this app into Xero, then it's totally fine. So once this invoice from Vent or from any other app is being sent under awaiting approval state, we can of course sync it up into ApprovalMax, and then with an invoice we can code maybe to additional account code or to a different tracking category. But the actual data entry and the supplier name and so on should be done on the Xero side or with the OCR tool if you're using one. And then once it's sent for approval, that's where we can easily do that. So it's no problem for us to match invoice from any other apps, but it will be from the awaiting approval state in Xero.
Hopefully that has asked, seems to have answered her question. Thank you very much for that, Alex. Melinda, would you like to jump on and ask your question? Hey, Melinda.
Yep. Hi, how you going? Is there any business that this isn't suitable for? Like, how small an operation is it suitable for, if it's not a stupid question?
Definitely not a stupid question for sure, because like I was saying before as well, this bookkeeping practice only needs a single approver. So in terms of size, we usually say if you've got about 2 to 3 approvers, that's a starting point for ApprovalMax. But it's more dependent on the need of the business. If those 2 directors are always out and about, right? So one's based in Australia, the other one's in New Zealand, and they both need to be able to approve the bills. Our approval process is sequential. So one person hits the approve button and then it goes to the second person for approval. So that's effectively, it would depend on the need of the business. We do have clients using ApprovalMax where there's just one person who needs to approve and an administrator creates those bills in ApprovalMax. That approval will hit the approve button and it gets ready to be paid.
And can I just go back to something Alex just said a moment ago on that other question? You were saying that if you've got a third party that integrates with Xero, so I don't use Dext or auto entry, and I've got another app that I use, as long as that third party app integrates with Xero and then ApprovalMax integrates with Xero and pulls the bills from there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So as long as it hits the awaiting approval stage in Xero, we can pull it from there. If it's sitting in draft, you can easily send it to awaiting approval. And as again, from there, we can pull that invoice out and take it through the approval process. However, if it gets approved directly in Xero, then it has skipped all the stages anyway.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Melinda, and thank you for your question. We have had another question. Joe, you're welcome to jump on and ask the questions. Otherwise, I'll ask them. Oh, here she is. Joe's jumping on. Hey, Joe.
Hey, how are you all? I think this is my third ApprovalMax session in 24 hours. And I've had some questions come to mind. So so you integrate with Xero and QuickBooks, is that correct?
That's right.
Do you work with any other software?
Not at the moment, nothing at the moment, but if there is a request that you call it a specific, then we can.
So could we use it independently of accounting software?
Yeah, that's a question that comes up quite a bit, and it's an interesting one. So we do offer standalone workflows as well that are not linked with Xero or QuickBooks Online. So if I just go back to my screen here and under approval workflows. So there's a standalone workflow option here. Now this is like opening a can of worms. It can be used for any particular process and it's very customizable. So we've got an example here for HR operations. So, let's say someone interviewed a candidate and you want to be able to send a contract to them before they start, but that contract needs to get the HR manager's approval, the GM's approval, CEO's approval before it gets sent to the candidate. So that's what this workflow effectively covers.
Yeah.
And this is quite customizable. So I can just say, okay, wait, there's two CEOs, CEO approvals. And then if you go into the matrix, we've got the amount column, we've got the requested column, and you can create a column as yourself as well. So let's say I want to say here, just for fun. That creates a field, and then you can create other other additional ones in here. So just for fun, matches, not fun. Being very creative here. And when you hit done, that effectively creates those fields, which then you can use for that particular purpose. If you are looking for any specific use case, happy to have a chat to you and discuss whether.
As I said yesterday in our webinar with you and Alex, I'm working with a not-for-profit auditor, and she works with a lot of different accounting software. So if it can be used independently, that might sort of stop them from having to convert accounting software, but then it will give them the authorization and approval process inside their organization. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thanks for the question, Joe. One of the other use cases I've seen is for payment batches. So you create a batch in Xero, you export it out in a PDF. And when you have created this approval workflow, and then you can add a request, attach that PDF to the workflow, to get approved. So then the PDF attachment gets sent to the director for approval. And then it can be manually created as an ABF file, ready to be paid from Xero.
Okay. Thank you.
And actually, same as for the Xero QuickBooks Online connection, for standalone workflows, we also do provide an audit reports for each and every request. So then that could be used as a document of proof that someone was approving things in a standalone workflow, that we can then take this PDF, this audit report, and attach that to the real request in Xero. So.
Okay. Thank you.
That was really interesting, actually, to be able to use it, the auditors actually to be able to use it independently, and probably makes it quite a powerful tool. You learn about something and you think, well, this is where it's going to be used. But I think in that small section there, just about the additional thing that you talked about the contract approval, you actually, it opens up a whole new feature set of the solution and other places that you can actually use it and get value from it, especially when those approvals are extraordinarily important. I also liked how at the very start, Sahil, you mentioned how this is a way to remove people out of Xero, so they don't have to touch Xero or QuickBooks. They can just come in here and work, because one of the unfortunate things, and I'm not sure whether QuickBooks has it, but Xero has, if we give someone permission to access Xero, they can see the bank accounts. It's like no business owner wants all their staff seeing the bank accounts, but unfortunately that level of restriction, I believe they have it in MYOB. I'm not sure about QuickBooks, but yeah, that's that at least that's okay. Well, you've got those access there and you have no idea what's happening in my bank account.
To add to that as well,
yes.
sorry to interrupt here, Heather. Just to add to that as well, the user interface is actually fairly similar to what you see in Xero. So this is just an example of the purchase order, and those are pretty much the same fields that you see in Xero. So if someone's used to using Xero, you can still remove them and put them into ApprovalMax, and they can create such builds and purchase orders here. One other thing I forgot to add is that, well, this is what an approval email looks like. So in the email itself, you've got an option to approve or reject. We also have a mobile app functionality, which it just makes it very simple to make a decision on a bill. And one thing we usually see is that it reduces any delays in the process. So it becomes very timely to to get the approval from the stakeholders.
Yeah, absolutely. Michelle has asked whether, and maybe it's from this screen here, you can have two tracking categories. I would have thought that you do have that ability to have two tracking categories.
Yes, of course. So
Yes.
we're 100% compliant with what Xero has. So if you have two tracking categories in your Xero file, then we also will show that to you.
Yeah, excellent. I have had a private question, which was, and it might not, you may not know the answer to this, but other people, we might be able to have a quick discussion on this. How does ApprovalMax compare with Expert? And I don't like to throw out comparative things like that, but I actually think while you're both in the audit space, I don't think that you're doing the same sort of thing. So Expert does things like checks the ABN numbers and checks various things like duplication of invoices, etc. I don't think what you're doing is approving, and you're offering a workflow for approvals, which is different. So I'm happy for someone to disagree with me, but I could see both solutions being used, and I could see both solutions actually being part of an auditor's toolkit. But happy for someone to disagree with me if they wish to. Does anyone else have any questions there? I saw Scott jumped on. Scott. Yes.
Can I ask a question? Just whether,
where are you, Scott? Looks like you're in a skateboard park.
No, I'm in the car park.
Okay.
Running errands. AirWallex is great for giving virtual cards to assistants and letting them use the virtual card and have it approval. I just wondered if there's any connection there. AirWallex, allows you.
Yeah, no, good question. I've just popped it in the chat area. It's AirWallex. It's a new one that, well, it's probably not new, but just everyone seems to be using it these days.
Yeah, it's great.
Interesting. I think so AirWallex would be like the data extraction tool for receipts and expense claims.
No, it's a payment solution.
It's a payment solution. So it's just like giving a PayPal account to your staff member. You can give them a virtual credit card that they can use up to a certain limit, and for certain transactions. So and I think you can approve it through their system. So maybe it's irrelevant. It's a great tool though. Seeing that expanded workflow, that's a great. I think that as a screenshot is a wonderful example of how this can work with a larger business with lots of different people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got a lot of mum and dad clients who that's all they've got, so it's less appropriate. But it looks like an awesome tool.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I completely agree. Thank you for joining us, Scott. Look, we'll take maybe I'll send you a link to AirWallex, Sahil, and I can potentially connect you with the team there. And there may be a partnership opportunity that inspired by Scott, because it is through our partnerships that everyone grows. Excellent. Now, does anyone have any more questions? Excellent. Oh, that's sensational. I will, if you would like, Sahil, would you like to share with people how they can get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously website has all the information, and you can always go to the website, get in touch with us, start a trial. I think that's the best way. It's a 30-day trial connected with your Xero account and see how it all works. Pretty simple UI, but you can simply get in touch with us at sales@approvalmax.com. Or I will also bring up here, if you are an accounting firm or a bookkeeping firm, and I'm assuming a lot of you guys are here today, you can go to the partner page as well. We do have a partner program. Effectively, what that means is when you become a partner, we welcome the opportunity to work with you, and we offer support, customer success, discounted subscriptions, certification program, and all that good stuff that comes with the partnership. So you can simply just sign up to the partner program, or get in touch with us here on the screen. Or the final one, which is probably the easiest one, is you can just send me an email.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much. And Alex, do you want them getting in touch with you?
Yes, I will get in touch with Alex anyway.
Yeah.
Do you mind just putting that in the chat, those email addresses?
Yes, we will do, Scott. Are you able to do that, Sahil? Oh, in fact, I
Yes.
actually have all the details here.
I will do that. Yes. I think Michelle's got another question.
Oh, does she? There you go.
I do. I just, when you have bills go into ApprovalMax, is there a notification sent to the person who needs to do the approvals? Or, you know, at the moment, I've got approvals that I need done in Xero and I've got to tell the person there's bills to approve. If I put things through into ApprovalMax, do they get notification somehow by email or something?
Yes, actually, there is 3 types of notification. First 2, it's email-based notification. One would be instant ones. So once you receive the new request or a new comment that you've made, you will receive an email from us with all the details. But if you got overwhelmed with such emails and you want to reduce the amount of such notifications, you can simply turn it off and enable just summary of open requests. So on the day that you've decided, on the time that you've decided, you will receive just one email with all the things that you need to approve. And then you can just log in and simply do that. The third part would be if you're using our mobile app, you will definitely receive a push notification about new requests and new comments and so on.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I've just got it on my screen here as well as what Alex was talking about. So you can receive a summary of open requests, or you can email notification as well, just showed before like this. And there's the mobile app notification. I think, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, I think about 50+% of our clients actually use the users use the mobile app function because it sends you push notifications and it prompts you to approve or reject straight away.
It's just much faster, much easier. First of all, well, what we see with the mobile app, lots of our customers from construction and entertainment industries, because they're usually on the site and they have no access to the laptop, and they just want to keep the whole process going, creation of the purchase order, especially because, well, when you just need to purchase something right now and you want to send the request straight away to your approvers, you can just simply do that from the mobile app. So I would say 15 to 20% of our customers using actually a mobile app, and the number is always growing.
Excellent, excellent. Oh, are there any other questions? We're coming up to time, so hopefully people can get in contact with Sahil and Alex. And I would like to thank you both for the presentation today. We really appreciate you coming along, showing us what your solution does and answering all our questions.
Well, thank you very much, Heather, for organizing this, for having us on, and love to get in touch with anyone who has any more questions, and we can do a separate demo to anyone who's interested.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having us. It was a pleasure talking to you.